Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brews N Reviews podcast. This week I have Eli AKA Spidey Verse, as you guys probably know from my Instagram and the couple of YouTube videos I did when we did that awesome New York shoot. So I have Spidey here on the phone, and I will let him do a little bit of an intro for himself and introduce himself.
Hey everyone, it's Spidey Verse, Spidey_Verse. Some of y'all know me as Eli or Elisha, but yep, that's me. Me and JT here, aka Running Gun, did the amazing neon Spidey shoot last year and blew up the interweb, and it was awesome. It's an honor and great privilege to be put on the podcast. So thank you, JT. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, Instagram, a little bit about cosplay, a little bit about photography, and kind of some of what's going on in some of these communities. I've realized, we've talked about a lot of the drama that goes on in the cosplay community, and it's pretty much parallel with the photography community, in my opinion. And then especially now with a lot of the protests and stuff going on, and the big what's on everybody's, headlines right now is George Floyd, and a lot of the stuff going on across the country just, rippling, and people choosing to talk about it, people choosing not to talk about it. But let's talk a little bit, get some kind of context or some pretext, and explain kind of to our listeners a little bit of the drama that goes down in the cosplay community, so they can get a little bit of the context if they're not familiar.
The cosplay community is very toxic in the sense that there's a lot of elitism. I don't mind name dropping because I have receipts, but like cosplay people or cosplay leaders like Cosplay Nay or Charlard, Bass Butcher. There's like a lot of different cosplayers that have an image that they have to upkeep, and I have examples where they kept certain people out from doing different shoots or different opportunities, or let people on and didn't follow through, and yada yada yada, a lot of different things. But the problem is everyone has this idea of imagery with the cosplay community, and unfortunately, very rarely do you have the cosplayers who are real, right? And so a lot of times these higher ups, quote unquote bunny ears, higher ups, they do a lot of things for their image or their followers or to get followers or to get their likes, things like that. And if you notice these people who are in these groups or cliques, as I like to call them, they sort of attract the same people. If you watch their stories, they're always promoting the same group of people. It's never really ever anyone different. It's always the same group of people. You always see them, at cons together and things like that. You'll never see them with someone who they don't know, very rarely. And if it's someone who they don't know, they're only using them to, use them for their or to their own advantage or their own benefit. It happened to me. I was a victim of that. But
Right.
you learn, and you get out of it. And you're a better person for it. So
Right.
I always tell people, just from my own experience, don't get comfortable and don't seek validation from people who are quote unquote higher ups or elitists and things like that. Do your own thing and go against the grain. Stop seeking that validation. I know that the cosplay community is we're like a bunch of misfits, right? Always seeking validation different ways. But you have to realize you have to be comfortable in your own skin and trust yourself and trust the process and just go your own way. I think that's one of the most challenging things, because most of us are misfits. Coming from backgrounds of either high school or middle school and things like that. We want to find a place where we belong, right? Which is why so many cosplayers succumb to people who take them in or accept them in their groups or invite them to cool shoots or events or parties. Like, none of that shit matters. So that's how that happens. A prime example was just yesterday. Cosplay Nay was suited up and did a photo op during the Black Lives Matter movie. Like, what are you doing? Stop. Like, literally. And people got smeared for it, but just like, what are you doing? Like, but you're doing it for the likes, you're doing it for the attention, you're doing it for the views. Like, no one gives a fuck about that. No one cares about that. Why are you doing that? You're not even out there protesting for an actual cause. You know, how about you take off your suit, grab a sign, wear your PPE, and march or protest or donate. You know, don't go out there suited up in a Spider-Man suit. Like, what? So, but again, like, that's what is a very conceited kind of thing to do. You know, people, but that's how they are. They want the attention, and it's not about them. Like, for one moment, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about other lives
Right.
that are on the line. So, it's very, very sad. It's very ignorant. Again, it's more disheartening when another black person uses their platform for themselves, you know, and it's just very disappointing. It's very disappointing because they know better and they can do better, but they won't. And yeah, it's more frustrating even before this whole uprising with the whole Black Lives Matter thing. You know, they did, you know, crafted things to their own race, including myself. So it's just very cliquey. It's just very cliquey, and I do not like cliques. If you speak to anyone who knows me, yourself included, you know that I don't hang out with cliques. I speak to everyone with respect. I give everyone the same opportunity. I give everyone the same time of day, same kind of energy. I don't hang out with just one group or one person. You know, I usually stay to myself. You know, but I still give everyone respect, and I you know, I'm advocate with a lot of different things, and I'm very vocal. So, but the cosplay community in general is very toxic, very, very. And there's other examples. That lead into like the whole Black Lives Matter with Stella Chu. I remember reading about that. Like, it's just a lot of people who just elitist into like, what are y'all doing, man? It's just very sad. And a lot of people idolize them and look up to them, and it's like, stop. You have to come to a point where you have to ground yourself and take a look in the mirror and be like, how does that reflect who I am as a person in my own character? If I'm willing to support someone like that, you know? So
right.
That's how the cosplay community is. It's very cliquey, and I do not like it. I do not partake in it, and I never identified with the cosplay community. Never did. When I started, that was never what I started off with. That was never what my mindset or goal, quote unquote, goal was. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it, and you know, as we've spoke about in the past, and I mean, you've seen it too. The photography community is just full of cliques, and it's all segregated out. And there's, I don't want to say the whole photography, you know, community in quotes is toxic, but just a lot of it is. And a lot of people, there are so many like gatekeepers that I've realized. It's like people like, all right, well, this person can come and be in my clique or my club, but not this person. And you just, no one ever actually says, hey, you can't be a part of my group. But it's obvious, and it's just like, yeah, you know if you're in or you're out, and it's like that's not what photography is about, and I know that's not what cosplay is about either, and it's sad. It's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, you're right, and there are gatekeepers in the cosplay community too, and that's kind of what I kind of like hinted on with the cliques, right? That's kind of how it is too with, you know, the gatekeepers. You know, like if you go to a cosplay, you know, party, like theme party, and you'll see them, and you'll see people want to hang out with them and want to be, you know, in with them, or just random events. And it's like, oh, you have to be in their group or like in their circle to even say, you know, just to be normal. It's like, you don't have to do that. Like, anybody who comes up to me, if I don't know them or not, I embrace them. Like, I don't see skin color, I don't see religion, I don't see anything. I just see the person for who they are. And I love interacting and taking pictures, just talking and just interacting and just taking it in. But very rarely do you see that amongst, you know, people who are like that. You know, like the whole gatekeepers and things like that. So I hate that. I hate it with a passion. I cannot stand it, and I don't like when people sit back and let it continue to happen or not speak up about it. You know. But I know me and you are both on one accord with that about just speaking up and thankfully, I think we've gotten a lot of support for it, and people know about it. But we're not. I like that we're not afraid to just call things for what they are. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, there are some times where it's just so blatant and I'm so
Mm.
tired of seeing it. I just gotta say, like, hey, you're fake. And I call people out for it. And,
Yeah,
sometimes I go a little bit too far. I admit that. But I try
that's
and
okay.
distance myself from a lot of these, and I gotta put it in quotes, photography communities, because, again,
Right.
they're not all bad. It's just, like we just kind of keep saying, gatekeepers and toxic individuals that are
Right.
they're in it for their own clout, and that's why I hate that
Yeah.
word. And
Yeah. That's
oh,
that's a
yeah,
big one. That's a really really big one. And I don't. And thank you for putting that disclaimer out. Let me know that I don't think that the whole community of the cosplay community is like that as a whole. No, not
right,
everyone's like that. I know and have met some amazing, down to earth, genuine people from across the board, including yourself. You know, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different religions, different viewpoints. All of that, I've seen it. But I love it, and I keep myself intact with that. But again, it's just too the bad apples are the ones that have the bigger platform, or people know about them, or rather, stay quiet or not say anything because they think that, like, people, you have to understand, no one is above anybody. No, like, cosplayers aren't God. Like, they die like you and me. They get
right,
in trouble like you and me. Like, they can be canceled like you and me. Like, everyone is it, no one has like a clean slate, and no one is invulnerable, or no one is invincible.
right,
No one's invincible. Literally, no one's invincible. And so I think once they realize that, they can take their own power back, because everyone has their own power. Everyone has their own voice, and I think a lot of times people lose sight of their own voice when looking up to other people. It's like, just take back a piece of yourself and
right.
just run with that. So
Absolutely. And I wanted to shift a little bit. I wanted to talk a little
yeah.
bit more, and I know you do too. Kind of, current events, what's going on in the world right
Mm-hmm.
now. And there's something that I'm seeing in the photography community, and I know as we spoke
Mm-hmm.
before, you're seeing it as well. And what I'm, what's frustrating me a little bit is seeing every time there's a protest, it is
Mm-hmm.
the first, and I'm going to say, I thought this until I was educated and actually sat down for a second, stopped myself and
Right.
thought about it. But the first thing photographers do when they see a protest or a riot or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
go grab the
Mm-hmm.
camera, let's go photograph it. And I'm like, I wanted to be that person too, trust me. um,
Right.
but I started learning some things. So I was actually in Baltimore back in 2015 in spring for the Baltimore riots,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of giving some context and telling the story a little bit of why I thought the way I do, or thought the way I did. So I was in school, studying some journalism, and the riots were literally happening. I had a photo assignment, and I was downtown the day those protests started, and I was literally a block away with my camera, photographing things. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a buddy of mine that was 2 blocks away from me photographing, the protests and stuff. And then when things escalated, um, he got a super powerful image of, it was a cop car that was just burning, and there was a guy with a mask standing on top of it. And in my
Oh
head,
wow.
yeah, it was amazing image. He won a bunch of awards for it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to name drop because I don't want to do that in this thing. But
I
what,
personally don't. I mean, I don't.
yeah,
I
for this
like, for
particular
me
thing,
anyway. Let me get whatever. I'll do it. I'll take the heat if I need to.
yeah.
Sorry.
But the guy I'm talking about, still, he's a friend of mine. I still consider him an acquaintance, and I'm not mad or upset with him at all. I'm just not going to throw him under the bus because he went in with a different mentality than I did. He went in with a community mentality. He is also a black photographer, and he
Mm-hmm.
photographed it from the perspective of that community. In my mindset, because I was still what I consider ignorant, I wanted to photograph it for the picture. I wasn't doing it to tell the community story. I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. And over the past few years, I was also in North Dakota when those pipeline protests were happening. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, I was 2 hours away from that. And again, first thing that came to my head, I want to grab my camera and I want to photograph this. But I chose not to then as well. And then coming to this, it's really hit me again, coming around, for the third, the fourth time. I'm starting to kind of lose that. Oh, it's a protest. I gotta grab my camera. I gotta get those photos. And I start thinking, why, why am I, drawn to grab my camera? Because I know a ton of photographers. That's the first instinct they get is something's
Mhm.
happening. I have to grab my camera and I have to make, photos of what's going on. But
Mhm.
what I was really trying to think of the words to describe this, and the best thing I could
Right.
think of, and the best thing I could come up with is people are obsessed with destruction porn, is really what it comes down to.
Wow.
And I think that it's hard, and it's hard to hear, and that might hurt some people's feelings, but
Oh, but it's the
people,
truth though.
right, people want to see things on fire. They don't want to see, people, coming up. They don't want to see people being successful and photograph that. They want to see cities burning down. And that's what ultimately, taking all these words and putting them into a holistic, meaningful thought. It was just photographers want to photograph all this destruction. It's like, what story does that tell? Where does that help? I'm watching these protests and stuff on the news, and I'm seeing more photographers than I am protesters half the time. And everybody's on their phone getting point of view and stuff like that. But these
Right.
photographers that I see flock to these gatherings, it I know a lot of, I mean, some of them may have good intentions. I'm sure there are a ton that do, and I know a few that
You're right.
do, but there are a lot that are just going at it for the destruction. And it's like, are you helping these communities? Are you hurting these communities? Are you doing this so
Right.
that you can try and win some award or get some likes on Facebook or pretend like you're doing
Mhm.
your part? So
Right.
that was my kind of like 5 minute rant. So what are your thoughts on that?
This is the first time, and this is why I love these kind of conversations on like these tastes because again I love engaging in like conversations where things open your mind, different
Right.
perspectives and different viewpoints, right?
Absolutely.
So I never thought of it like that. I never thought of it like that. But just listening to you talk just now, it made me think. It made me cut to um, the purge, right?
Yep.
Why was I mean myself included? Why did people enjoy the purge so much?
Right.
Destruction, but I never thought of it the way that you were like piecing it together, like destruction porn, right?
Right.
It's like some men just want to watch the world burn. Some do.
Yep.
I did enjoy the idea of the deconstruction of the government and how things are so warped and so messed up. And again, as a black African American, the purge was something that, in my mind, needs to happen because it day after day, there's so much oppression from my own culture within America that I know in some cases the only best way for us to get to where we need to be is that, right? So, but just hearing the breakdown from what you just said, yeah, it's weird. I can vividly even think of photos right now that I've seen um, of destruction, and it doesn't it doesn't make me upset. It doesn't make me sad. I'm like, good. Like that needs to happen. Like what? Like it's symbolic to me. Like there's a picture
Right.
that a good friend of mine sent me, Xavier, and there's a picture of three guys. I remember I have it on my Facebook, and I have it also. I'm gonna post it on Instagram later in the coming days, but or weeks. But there's three black men, like or there's three young guys, and they're all doing the black power fist in the air, right? Or two of the three guys are. But it's symbolic because it it is it's symbolizing what was coming. in a weird way. It's really weird. Cities in the U.S. were bound to happen. Like, this was bound to happen.
Right.
And when you oppress a race for so long, if you don't make changes, but you say you're going to make changes, and I don't mean to get too political, but certain parties depend on the black vote, and they promise change, and nothing happens, and they expect the black people to show up every single time, and we do, and they still don't make progress. There's a certain point where we get fed up,
right?
And I definitely don't like the term. I'm tired. I'm not tired. I'm just fed up. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yep.
Right. And so this picture of these guys, and like, it was an Arby's on fire. Now, mind you, I'm not condoning, and supporting lighting up small businesses or Starbucks or no, I'm not saying that. But in this sense, it's symbolic because America was built on the backs of black slaves for free. Now, that picture is symbolic because essentially, again, America is crumbling now, right? The same
right.
people who you enslaved and wrote off on and all this stuff for dirt and nothing, and we had to fight just for our own voice. It's like you're your own end to your own demise.
Yep.
And it's a shame that black people have to get to this point for people to understand. It's like when you're on the playground, when you're playing on the playground as kids, and if you're being pushed around, you're only going to get pushed around for so long before you get fed up and punch someone.
Right.
And it's only then will people on the playground stop to look and listen and figure out, why did you do that? Well, if you were paying attention the whole time, you were doing this to me, and I told you to stop. And the same analogy. If you back an animal in the back into a corner, the animal is going to self-defense. Like, they're going to defend themselves.
Right.
So I don't know. That picture was just very symbolic because to me, it's like America was built on the backs of African Americans from slavery for free, and we got nothing back really from it. We've still gotten oppression. We've still been less than equal, and it's hard to sometimes explain it to people who are non-black, but I'm trying to take this time to try to help, right? Because the more we try to help each other out, we can come closer, bridge that gap to where you can understand, not every black person is looting. There's definitely different things. I've seen evidence, and it was concrete. People of other Caucasians were looting, but the media spins it and puts on black people.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because it's easier to do that. Right?
Yep.
It's easier to blame black people than it is
right.
a white person. That's just facts because that's America. But yeah, like I definitely agree with you on that with the structure porn, but again, I feel as though it ties into a need for change, and I'm not upset if the government gets taken down. That can be rebuilt. Governments can be rebuilt. Lives cannot be brought back though. Governments and structures and things like that, they can come back, but human lives can't. And for too long, my brothers and sisters of brown, black, Asian, Puerto Rican, like Hispanic, too many lives have been lost within the people of color community, and I think it's just one of those times now where people, like, y'all are seeing a small peak. I'm talking like real small. So, but this is why it's not new to black people. This is why to us we've been saying this for so long. But that's why the destruction has to happen now, because we know that y'all are awake and y'all are listening. So sometimes for y'all to listen, there has to be some kind of reaction, and sometimes that's the best way to get attention is to get riots going. And it was crazy too. I'm not trying to go off too much of a rant here, but what's crazy to me is it took a riot in Minneapolis to get an officer who killed a black man. Like, let that sink in. it took a riot, not, human decency or just law, like ethical things. It took a riot for the officer to be arrested.
Right.
Not the moment he killed him. He wasn't taken in handcuffs from the moment he killed George Floyd, which he should have, because of what that happens in movies, right? A lot of us watch movies, and the moment someone kills someone, they get taken away. And, there's a sense of justice and yada yada. No, but that didn't happen here, right? So that's just a little bit I'm gonna just leave you with, because as Black people, we see that. Like, we read between the lines. It's like, yeah, like, and people always say, oh, he's arrested, there's justice. No, there's no justice. No. I can't tell you how many times people who are white have been arrested and they get out or they get off. That being arrested don't mean anything. We'll wait and see when there's a trial or whatever, and when he's officially charged and put behind bars, then there will be justice. But there will be no justice until the verdict is made and he's behind bars for good. Until then, it ain't nothing new to us. This is just another episode, and we're trying to see where this episode leads. But sorry, I'll let you get back. Sorry for my tangent.
No, that was great. I think that was some really powerful stuff that I think a lot of people need to hear. And coming from me, it doesn't mean anything. And I think coming from you, it has a lot deeper meaning.
I want to pause you there. I want to pause you right there, real quick. So, I need to take off your point. Even though I said it, and coming from my viewpoint, your voice still matters. I'm going to bring that back later, but you knowing what you know now, right?
Right.
You have a voice now, and more now more than ever. So when we have Black people say, help us, fight for us, stand for us, help, like, fight, stand with us, because if people are family members, or if anyone is talking down about Black people, intervene and be like, no, stop. That's not right. That's not true. Because some people don't know, and some people are ignorant to knowing. But I mean, stop you all, on that. But now you do know, and your voice does matter. And I know a lot. So there are some people who are white, think, oh, I won't be heard. No, you will be heard, because you're empowered. You're empowered. We're not empowered. Y'all are empowered. That's why we try to take these times to educate people and walk them through what it all really, what it all is, because no one listened to us until things like this happen. So
right.
But I'm glad and I'm glad my voice and my perspective helped educate, and I hope it does continue to educate and give you encouragement to speak up for us and with us, and stand with us on these issues. Because if we're not in solidarity about these issues, there's no point of us going about it. There's no point. So sorry, keep going.
No, that was actually great, and I think that was really important to have. It's that conversation. It's you and I throwing stuff back and forth at each other, and I mean we both learn stuff. You start to understand how I think. I start to understand a little bit how you think. We're never going to completely understand, but at least that dialogue is open. That conversation,
exactly.
It's fluid. So
exactly.
It's a constant education. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think that's important for other people to hear. And that's why, kind of like I was saying before, and I've told you, in private, that I've been hesitant to talk. Why? Because I didn't know what to say. Because I felt like my voice wasn't the right voice. And then talking to you and saying, no, you're the voice, as in me, you're the voice they're listening to right now. You got to say something, because the silence isn't doing any good. It's doing more harm than it is, not doing anything.
Yep. And that's point taken. That's exactly how it is. And I commend you for just being vulnerable enough to have this conversation, because again, some people aren't willing to have a conversation. They're just stuck in their ways, and they think that what they think and think that's the way it is, and it's just clean cut, black and white. There's no gray. Like, no, man, like, you gotta have these conversations. But yeah, it matters, man, because again, divided we fall, united we conquer. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It is really that simple. You have to understand that concept and that ideal or idealism and belief. That's the best way I can honestly put it.
Yep, that was, I think you summarized it really well, and it comes down to, at least on my end, it came down to me, I mean, being kind of ignorant and kind of selfish, because I didn't know what to say, but I didn't ask either. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't say, hey, what should I say? What should I do?
Right.
And you're right. You do kind of have to open yourself up, and it's not easy. It's not easy to say, hey, I was wrong. I didn't understand. That's the hardest. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do or what your job is. It's hard to say, I'm not good at my job and I can definitely improve or learn more. It's just like that in life. Like, hey, I'm not the best at playing this game that we're all trying to play right now. Like, everybody's in this together. We're all playing the same game. Some people, a lot of people, like you're saying, have setbacks, and not everybody is on an even level in the game. But we're still all in the same game together.
Exactly. You get it. So you get it.
I'm trying to get it. I'm starting by admitting that I don't get it, and then that kind of lowers me down to a level or humbles me down, I think I should say.
That's a good one. Yes. And I commend you for your integrity just to have that conversation again, because admitting that you don't know is the first stage of acceptance, right?
Absolutely.
Denial is the first stage of acceptance, and then once you get to that point and pass it, then you can start to process and start to listen and learn and start to really grow as a person, because so many people are like, oh no, it's just, this is what it is, yada yada. No, hang on. You gotta take a step back. You gotta take a step back and just ask what's going on. And then also, like you say, you didn't know, and some people are embarrassed or ashamed or whatever you want to call it for not speaking up and asking someone, hey, can you teach me? Can you help me understand? And 9 times out of 10, we'll be more than happy and willing to take the time to walk you through it, because that's all we've been wanting to do, is to tell that truth, tell what it is. So again, I commend you for just humility, the humility, and again, like, humbling yourself and be like, hey, look, I'm not perfect, no one is, but I know myself enough to where I'm going to be a better version of myself, be a better me, and impact the future and the present and the future and beyond in a way that needs to be so fit. So yeah, I definitely thank you for that, for real, and coming to me and asking me for that.
I appreciate it. I think if you and I can have that conversation, and if you and I can open that door for somebody else, it's all worth it. Like, I already feel better, with a little bit more knowledge under my belt. But if you and I can use, if I can use my photography audience to, kind of just get those wheels churning in their brain and understand, like, maybe somebody is in the exact same position I am, or the exact same position I was, and they go, well, oh shit, like, I can just talk to these people? Yeah, you can talk to people. Like, yeah, it sounds scary. Like, you don't know what to ask. You don't want to offend somebody for being like, oh, hey, I'm coming to you because you're black and you know more than I do about what's going on with your own community, obviously. Like,
right.
I think a lot of white people are, and, here I am on my pedestal speaking for all white people, just kidding. But I think, speaking for myself right now, no matter how much you want to say, I don't see color, I'm colorblind, whatever people say, I mean, it's there, and it comes down to fear. It's like, how do I talk to somebody that's different from me? It's this thing that's ingrained in us since we're like in kindergarten, preschool, whatever. How do I start a conversation with somebody that's different than me? And I think if we can, kind of grease those skids and help start that conversation, I think if we take some of that fear away, I think that's a lot of power and a lot of conversation we can start.
Yeah, and again, like people aren't taught racism at a young age, or sorry, yeah, people aren't taught to be, or you're not born racist, right? You're not
Right,
born racist,
right, right,
but you can be conditioned to learn to be racist. I'm from the South, and that's exactly what it was. Like there are people who I knew since grade school that um, weren't always like that. But the older they got, the different people who they hung around, or the more that they listened to different impactful or different people around the area, change their perspectives, right?
right.
Um,
Yep.
but I hope us talking can open that door and get the wheels turning as well for people in the cosplay community or just people in general, um, who need to have that conversation or would like to have the conversation, because the first step to learning is to understand. And the only way you're going to understand is if you ask. And you have to ask from a place of endearment and understanding. If you can combine both those, and when you're approaching the situation, I guarantee you, your talk and your dialogue will amplify and change things dramatically. Do not ever come to a black person or any person of color and say all lives matter. You will literally lose every ounce of integrity or respect that you have for that process of learning anything.
Right.
Because again, we understand that all lives matter. We're not saying that all lives don't matter, but all we're saying is Black lives Black lives have not mattered enough. Black lives haven't mattered for over 400 years. That's what we're saying. And what y'all saw is what we're trying to, it just, I guess just try to convey to y'all. That's what we mean. A black man can die, get murdered in front of everyone. But his life does not matter enough to where justice gets served immediately. That's the issue. But let's be clear. If that shoe was on the other foot, if that was a black person doing that to a white person, we all know that is not what would have happened. That black person would have been lynched in political terms. That person would have been, you want to talk about plastered and smeared and humiliated and the word term I like to use, ganked up very quickly. It would have been swift.
Right.
There would have been no riots. There wouldn't have been no viral. No. But as black people, we know this. Like we understand this difference. So when we say Black Lives Matter, again, we know that other lives matter, but we don't matter to America as a whole, and that needs to change. The person who started the movement of Black Matters was a black woman. Shout out to my black women there. I see you. We hear you. Breonna Taylor's death did not go unnoticed or forgotten. Breonna Taylor definitely should not have died the way she did. She should not have been shot in Louisville the way she did by that police officer. Right? So, black lives across the board, women and female and children, our lives matter just as much as everyone else. So that was just my piece about that.
Yeah, I love that. So I was told, I don't remember who said this, but somebody, so I didn't, I'll admit, I didn't understand the Black Lives Matter movement when it started. I don't think anybody did. It felt like it just kind of came out of nowhere. Someone explained it to me and said, hey, when you're studying for a test and you're reading all the material and you go and you highlight something. When you highlighted something, you didn't go and you didn't burn the rest of the book. you highlighted something because it's something that you don't want to skip over the next time you read it. So I think
Correct.
it made something in my brain click and say that it just that fucking makes sense. Like, you are highlighting that there's an issue. You're not there's We're so polarized in this country that if you like something, it means you must hate something else. If you
Correct. Yep.
if you like this presidential candidate, you have to hate this one. If you like this mayor, you have to hate this one. If you like this kind of person, you have to hate this. And there's no gray area. Everybody wants to put everybody in
Absolutes.
a box,
Absolutes.
yeah, in a category. And it comes down to, like, we're not saying the rest of it isn't important. We're saying, hey, just remember that we're here. And
Exactly.
when this kind of stuff comes up, it's like, hey, remember, we told you about this. Come on. So I think maybe that'll help. Illustration will help somebody else kind of understand too, because that was just something. I wish I could give credit to whoever said it, but it clicked in my brain.
Well, I personally thank the person who kind of helped you with that analogy, because that was a really good analogy. That was a really good analogy.
Yeah,
So,
it makes sense to me. I hope that it makes as much sense to everyone else as it does to me.
Same.
And I wanted to come back to a point that you brought up earlier about essentially everyone watching this happen. When George Floyd was killed, the whole country has seen this video, right? Everyone watched these images happening and watched the whole thing. And what kind of I want to speak to, like, the power of, like, imagery. Like, that wouldn't have, if we would have read about that in the back of a book somewhere with no pictures, no video, no audio, no anything, it wouldn't have had that meaning, that impact. Like, I watched that and that punched me in the gut.
Yeah,
And
man.
the power of, the whole country seeing this. And this is kind of, I want to flip a little bit and talk about the power, since it is a photography podcast, and I do have to talk about photography a little bit.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
The power of, but still on topic, the power of imagery. Like, imagine if that was the power of imagery, that we had to watch something bad happen. What about the power of imagery of, watching something good happen? I really like. I don't know how you feel about this, but I really like the video. There was a guy that was just walking around with a shirt that said "Free Hugs." Nobody, no me.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
Dude, it was the only thing that's been good on TV, and I have to say, like, the last 4 months. And
yeah.
that is powerful imagery too, and that's, those photos hold power. And I just saw a guy on Twitter like 2 days ago, and if we want to talk about people doing the right thing with photography,
Yeah, absolutely.
and going to these protests and doing with the right, I don't know how, with the right heart, with the right mentality, with the right
The right intention. The right intentions.
Yes. Because every decision you make has a consequence, and whatever you go into something with the wrong intention, your imagery isn't going to be powerful, and you wasted your time and everybody else's. Or B, you go in with the right intention of telling someone's story, and again, not being focused on, yeah, it's a powerful image of a burning building or whatever, that destruction porn we were talking about later. But
Right.
what about the people? Focus on the people. The building, like you said earlier, the building can be replaced. It's the people that can't be replaced. I don't have an emotional connection with this burning building. I think, as we said earlier, yeah, there's people that just want to watch the world burn, but that also means they don't have an emotional connection with that burning building. I have an emotional connection when I see a guy's face and somebody kneeling on his neck. That's an emotional connection. That's powerful imagery. How
Yes.
And I'm talking out loud here. I'm not looking for an answer, but how do we flip that? Like, what message can we give to the photography community? And I know I sidetracked. I was bringing up an example a minute ago, where I saw a photographer. What? Yeah, that was it. Thank you for reminding me.
You got it.
This photographer had photographed it. It was a whole story with a beginning, a middle, a climax, and an end in 4 fucking photos. Not 30 minutes of, Fox News or CNN or ABC or whatever.
Right.
In
Right.
4 photos. It was 2 guys shouting at each other. It was a guy with a, big white guy with a beard and Make America Great Again hat, very just kind of like stereotypical. And then you had the black guy, and you could almost see the spit in the air in this photo going at each other. And there was another photo similar, but so that was the beginning. And then there was another photo of, these 2 guys were getting into it, and then you could start to see the people that were polarized and were like, hey, I like this guy, so that means I have to hate this guy, right? And you could see it in people's faces. So but you also see, as these people are starting to gather in these photos, these 2 guys are actually taking the 10 seconds to actually talk to each other. Like, I'm gonna explain my mentality, and I'm gonna listen to you explain your mentality, and let's find there's common ground. It doesn't matter how different you are. There's always common ground, and that's where you start. So, and these guys have at least reached some minimal common ground where they're not, slinging spit or fists or whatever. And the 4th photo is these guys walking away from the camera. Like, it was a movie. These guys walking away, essentially, it looked like into the sunset with their arms wrapped around each other.
Oh, wow.
4 photos. And the people, and it had to be just as powerful as the people standing there that were all up in arms like, hey, this is my side, and I'm going to defend my side. No, nobody, they're not talking. It's the 2 guys that, they started out yelling, but that yelling turned, somehow, I wasn't there, I wish I was, but that yelling turned into a meaningful conversation, again, somehow. And that was 4 photos. Not any of the, bullshit that we see on, like, the news and this, garbage journalism. But that was a guy, and I want to find this photographer's name.
I would love to find out who he was so I can thank him for that.
Yeah, I had to comment, and I said they were the most powerful images that I have seen of this whole thing. And I wasn't even following this photographer, and I started following because of this, because it hit home. It was a metaphorical punch to the gut. It's like, if these 2 guys that, I'm obviously stereotypically judging them by, what they look like, what they were wearing, but they looked to me like they were just polar opposite human beings. But this story, like I said, beginning, middle, and end in 4 photos that, there was a whole character change that happened. And
There was a shift.
Yes.
There was a major shift.
And if that type of power can be harnessed to bring people together instead of dividing people, it's done. That game over. That's a win in my book.
And that's honestly what we need. And that's in every Black person's mind. That's honestly what we want. Believe it or not, despite what the media or politics let y'all to believe, we just want to be left alone and just be in peace and let everyone just do what they want to do. We always have this saying, which is true. They love our culture, but they don't love us. People like take Black people's culture or just my culture and appropriate it to their own, but they hate Black people. You know how frustrating that is. you know how frustrating it is to see that. Like it is. Again, America as a whole and other places take from Black people, but they never accept Black people. It's very interesting. It's like one of those things where I saw recently. It was a protest, and I remember it was a tweet of a woman. She was in a red dress, and one of the cops assaulted. It was like a group of Black people, and there's this Black woman, and the black cop pushed the bicycle onto her, onto to the black woman, and this white woman came in and intervened and took the bike and shoved it off of her and put it back onto the cop. Basically, she jumped in to defend the black woman. That kind of imagery, that's in my mind. That kind of imagery was caught, and shared. And I'm sure no one ever probably even saw that, but I saw it. And I think I remember retweeting it on Twitter. But that's the kind of positivity in my mind that need to be more of, because there are people who are defending and looking out for each other of different races, absolutely, with different viewpoints, and that's what the narrative needs to keep, or more of the narrative that needs to be driven home, is that, because we have people from different races, different backgrounds and viewpoints who are fighting for us and standing up for us. And the last thing we need is someone trying to divide that and be like, oh, well, look at this person. They count for everyone. No, they don't. No, they don't. So I don't know. I thought that was very moving and touching to see how that woman stood up for that white woman to stand up for that black woman. In that moment where the cop, pushed the bicycle onto the bike, and then that wasn't warranted or needed. So sorry, just trying to piggyback off what you're trying to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were saying that, it actually gave me a moment to find this photographer. So I guess I just realized the guy I started following on Twitter was just someone who shared the images. If you go to my Twitter, you can see I retweeted it.
Okay, let me see.
The guy that shared it was B_well_. But I guess
okay, yeah.
And I guess the photographer was a Philip Kinnison. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know if he has a Twitter, but shout out to that guy for his powerful imagery.
That handshake though, oh man.
That's you have this almost cinematic movie image of them walking into the sunset, and you can see there's the polar opposite of this guy looked like he was about to start, tearing people's heads off. Turned into
he's not having it, man.
Yeah, you can see he's laughing and smiling as he walks away. You can just see it from the body language, just completely different. Instead of being so hostile, and you don't know what the change is, but because you can't hear the words. But sometimes that imagery is just so powerful. Does it matter what the words were, or does it matter that words were what solved the problem? That opening of that door, that conversation, just like you and I having that dialogue and being just as simple as open to talking and not being afraid to talk, which, I mean, if it has to start with two people yelling at each other, I mean, that's a start. That, like you said earlier, you start with that denial, but then once you realize you don't know everything, I mean, it's okay to not know what you don't know, but...
Absolutely. It's called humility. It's called being human. It's okay. You're not going to know everything.
When I talk about going into something with the right mindset, I guarantee you there are 40 or 50 other photographers here, and I bet you 39 or 49 of them were off shooting a burning building somewhere instead of focusing on the people.
I believe it.
And you know what? All those, we're not talking about that burning building photo. I can't think of a single iconic one right now, but I was instantly able to go back in my head, recall these images that are burned into my brain right now.
Right.
Because of how powerful they are. And that's kind of what I want to impress on some of the people that are listening right now, in addition to all the important stuff we've talked about. How the power of imagery to talk, we scroll through Instagram and stuff all day without even thinking about how powerful this stuff is to grab it grabs our attention all day. What do? We sit on Instagram all day and we scroll through it. And then at dinner, we sit in front of the TV all night and then we watch Netflix. Imagery and visuals, they encapsulate our entire world and they control us. So the power that, video and photography has, let's flip that message. Let's photograph the right things that are going on. Like you brought it up earlier, and I really wanted to come back. You're talking about the white folks that are coming in and looting these places, and who's getting blamed for it? I don't see them getting blamed for it.
Nope, you will not. You will not.
A big one that actually, I don't know if you know who was it Logan Paul, the big YouTube guy?
Oh God, I can't stand him.
Yeah, did you?
Oh my gosh, I cannot stand him.
I just saw today he got caught on video looting a PF Chang's and some other place, and then going through some mall in Arizona and
Ridiculous.
busting the windows in this mall with his vodka bottle that he stole from somewhere else. And I was like, it that's ridiculous. And which kind of brings me up to kind of another kind of side tangent I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So I was born in Detroit. I lived there for 16, 17 years. And
Wow.
there was
Detroit's not easy. That's not an easy place to be living, man.
no, but it's still the place where I still kind of consider home.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a rough area, but
Yeah, bro. That's not easy.
it's a very damaged area. And what I like to see, I have a good friend that I went to school with, that he ended up being a police officer, and if I'm not mistaken, I think like 80%, a very high majority of the Detroit Police Department is black. So I think that helps when it comes to community. And I still have him on Facebook, and he does a lot of photography. He'll go around, in the middle of the night, driving through Detroit and just taking these gorgeous photos of this empty city in the middle of the night. But he brought up a couple good points, like the police department in Detroit and the city of Detroit itself have a surprisingly pretty darn good relationship. Like the Detroit Police Department has a trust and a rapport and a relationship built up with those citizens. So it was actually really kind of disheartening watching on the news, like looking back home, and you see these fuckers, a lot of these rich white kids coming out of the suburbs and coming to trash the city, knowing that somebody else is going to get blamed for it. And what I liked about Detroit is they called that shit out real quick. It was all over the news. There's like, people from Ann Arbor, people from Lansing and the capital, people from Ypsi, everywhere's coming out of nowhere to trash the city because they think they can come in and, play anarchist, burn down a Starbucks, and feel important for a day. But the joke was on them when it's like, hey, Detroit has been through this shit. Like they've been through the ringer. They're not going to burn down their city. And I saw some great things. A lot of people coming out of like lower income areas of the city, and the police protesting with them because they are on, especially like Detroit. And I can't speak for every city, but I can speak a little bit for Detroit and just say there's just a different relationship, and it's kind of hard for me to describe. I was a lot younger, half my age now when I lived there. So it's I'm not always as current with events as I want to be, but that I think there's something special there, and you reminded me of it when you're talking about all these other people that are coming in from out of town and doing stupid stuff to play, little anarchist for the day. They make both sides of the, theoretical argument look bad.
Absolutely. But that's their point, right? That's their agenda. That's their motive. That's the way that they want to keep. That's the narrative they want to push. Because again, it's easier to blame black people because not for nothing, but that's the stereotypical image that people have of black people. Oh, they're angry and they're violent, they're aggressive, and all this other stuff. Like all these negative traits. There's more negative traits about black people and black men in general than there are positives, and there are a lot more positive traits about my fellow black men and brothers than there are negatives. But like every human being, there's negatives about every human race, like not just black. But yeah, that's the problem, and people seeing it for what it is changes. That's the positive change that needs to happen over time, because everything that you were told to believe and brought up to believe, that's not the reality. Like that's not the reality. Like a lot of black people that in general, like to just be left alone. They don't look, we don't look for trouble. We don't look for trouble. We're not instigating and trying to cause issues. I had an issue. I'm not trying to go too off topic here, but I posted about it in my Instagram story. I posted it on my Facebook. But I had like literally a situation that happened. Um, the other what was it? Today's yes, well, it was yesterday. Where there was a guy, a black guy, on the subway. I was heading back from my side job in Harlem, and this Caucasian guy was just bothering, this black guy, and he told him, look, I don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Like I just want to be left alone and listen to my music. And as a black man, whenever these situations happen, we know what can escalate, and also how we can de-escalate, right?
Right.
But we also know if we get involved, there's other things that could happen. Just because I'm black, things can escalate to different ways. Similar to the Cooper situation with the girl, the lady with the dog. How things can escalate and go in a bad direction and just go and be completely like lied on and about.
Yep, I saw that.
But basically, he told him, look, just leave me alone. I just want to beat my music. So I paused my music just to kind of assess the situation, and the white guy just kept bothering him. Like he just kept bothering him, right? And I could feel the anger and like the frustration boil. Like I could feel it because I know what's going through his head. Because you can see the levels of what he's trying to do and to just be left alone. And so eventually the black guy just snapped and made an announcement to the subway. It was almost like him saying, like a cry for help, saying, this is what this is what we have to go through, and this is what leads to what y'all see on the news. Y'all don't see the prologue or the leading up to. All you see is just the end result, which is most likely be me dead or me in handcuffs. But I'm not the one that started it. But that's how it always ends. The black guy is in jail, the black guy is dead, and the white person or whoever who made the accusation is the innocent one. And yeah. And so, the dude ended up leaving him alone and just try to calm him down from his anxiety, and let him know that he's not crazy and he's understood. I remember getting up and getting off at my stop. While passing him, I gave him a fist bump. Something that we as black people understand, we know. It's one of those soothing kind of things where it's like from a brother standpoint, from black to black brother standpoint, we know what that means. And I want him to know that it's okay. I understand. You're not crazy. Breathe. Right? I'm here. I see you. And a lot of times in the black community or just in general, people don't see us. People hear us, but they don't see us.
Right.
And so I remember him letting out a sigh of relief, and he laughed, he kind of chuckled a little bit. He said, "Thank you, brother." I remember saying that, and like I said, I knew what he was thinking. I knew how he felt without him even saying anything. And again, this is one of the things that we deal with every day. And but that's just an example I was trying to just throw out there for people to understand how things can escalate, and people just gaslight and do things to people of color all the time, and create their own narrative and spin it and turn it back on black people. Like, oh, yep, point the finger, it was him, yada yada. It's sad, but it happens.
Right.
More times than not. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on that tangent, but I just wanted to share that story.
No, that was another, I think, great story that'll help paint kind of that mental image for people, because like we said before, images are strong, and when you see stuff like that, it changes you, and some of that stuff it gets burned into your brain. It's like a scar. It's there forever. You can always kind of call back on it and remember, exactly what happened. Yeah, I think you've said a lot of powerful stuff, and I think people listening are really going to appreciate that. And as I said before, I hope it opens, that door or that conversation. And if it doesn't, be smarter, feel smarter, think about this kind of stuff. Like if you can't make a change, and I really hope that there are some people that feel a little bit empowered to make that change, to make that first step, to either stop saying I can't do anything and, just shut up and listen, or,
Yeah.
Take that first step, talk to somebody, open that door. And, it's not an easy conversation, but
No.
just have it.
But it has to be had. It has to be done. I do want to touch on 2 points real quick. I don't know if I'm going to wrap up. I just want to touch on 2 points.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to come back to it later. I want to make a point about to the people who are mixed. I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But people who are mixed, no matter if you're black and white, black and Asian, black, or just white and Hispanic, or white, or no matter your mixed ethnicity, there's a topic I want to talk on.
Okay.
But I'll come back on that in just a second. But first, I just want to make it clear, right? So what's happening now is long overdue, right? But again, I know I made a post about this. It blew up, and it's still, my phone is still going off to this day. The thing was posted like 4 days ago, and it's still getting reposted in comments and messages, which is great. But I want people to understand something. Black lives matter every damn day. Not just when someone is murdered, not just when it looks good for your social media page, not just for when it's a trend or when it's a hashtag. Black lives matter every fucking second of every day. Right. Literally. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter when another event happens. No, it doesn't stop for another hashtag. I'm a black man. I live in America, and I know I'm a good person. I know I have a good heart, and I do things right. But unfortunately, most people don't, or the majority don't see me like that. They see me as a threat. And the last thing I want to see, the last thing my mom wants to see me be is another hashtag, RIP hashtag, that'll be forgotten about within a week, or 2 weeks, or a month. So I do thank everyone who has supported me. I thank you as well, JT, for your messages and your words of encouragement, just supporting. But it doesn't stop here. The buck does not stop here. It's not. And for the people who are in the cosplay community, I'm talking to you. Each and every one of y'all that are doing this, y'all can be mad at me about it or not for calling you out on it, but it is what it is. Stop using cosplay as an escape from your reality. This is reality. This is reality. It sickens me and it disgusts me when I see people post pictures about themselves while real life situation going on right now. People are dying. Needless people are dying. Every day right now. More than ever. And you can't take 1 day or a week out of your time for a cause, for a positive change, for the future and the present. It's disgusting. And I don't want that. I don't want people to follow me who are like that. Please leave, because there will be no emotion behind it. Trust me, that it won't be missed. Okay? So if you have a platform, speak up. People are watching you. People are literally watching you to see what you do and to see how you react. Because right now, people need leaders. People need someone to look up to and have a voice, or to have a reason to be a voice. And you sitting back and you're posting pictures about yourself, or making videos, or suiting up and going out in your stupid cosplay for some fucking likes or some fucking views. Check yourself and get a grip of reality. Because those same black people that you're ignoring in the cosplay community, that are actively trying to be activists, they're also being ignored on a political standpoint too. And you don't have to protest. I'm not saying you have to do that, but post about it on your page. Make it public. Oh, I don't want to make my followers upset. Who gives a fuck? First off, you are yourself. You are yourself. And if you're out to try to please people, your followers, what are you doing it for? You're doing it for the wrong reasons. And your voice matters. And making that statement shows character of who you are. And again, don't just make it a 1 day thing. It's like that. You might have done it for 1 day, post it on your thing for 1 day, cool. But be consistent with it. Give the charities or donate. Do a silent protest. Do different things. Don't sit here and go along the Black Lives Matter or hashtag Black Lives Matter chain on your story, but you don't post about it on your page or anything else, or you're not active anywhere else. That's very hypocritical, and that is only igniting more to what most black people say about it. But people are quick to, put black people on their Facebook or Instagram or Twitter during, Black History Month, during 28, 29, days of Black Cosplay. Everyone loves to do that, though. Everyone loves to do that because it's a good PR stunt. It's good for clout, right? But no one wants to do that when shit hits the fan. Everyone loves being black until some be black. That's what we always say. Everyone loves being black until it's time to be black, and everyone gets quiet. When people were doing blackface, everyone was trying to come to the defense. But where are they now? Radio silence. So my thing is, don't be hypocritical. Use your voice for good. Be a leader, not a follower. Be the head, not the tail. That's something my mom taught me. And more people will respect you because you stand for something and not fall for anything. Real quick on my last point, I just want to talk to people who are mixed. So I do have a lot of mixed friends. I just want to first say your voice matters. Y'all matter. You don't have to be 100% black just to be a part of anything. The fact that you're mixed, anything makes a difference. And if you're mixed with black, I hate to break it to you, but your dominant trait will be black. So there's that. So you kind of have your black card by default, but just saying. But people who feel as though they're like a mud, or they feel lost, or they feel like their voice doesn't matter, they feel like they're muted. Do not feel that. Feeling lost or feeling as though you don't belong, that's something that we understand as a black community as a whole. We know that feeling. So don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. But don't feel as though you can't speak up. Saying nothing is far worse than sitting back. Or not saying anything is the worst thing you could ever do. Saying something could, make people upset and ruffle some feathers and make people uncomfortable. That's fine. But not saying anything is far worse. Because you are as much included in this than you probably can even imagine. So I'm hoping that by just letting you know that your voice matters, because you are still part of everything. You came from two different races, which is amazing. Like, I find that so prolific to be a person and have two different cultures combined to one. I think that's so beautiful. I love interracial relationships. I love interracial or biracial kids. I think they're beautiful. I think it's the most amazing thing to combine two different cultures and merge into one. You can identify with two different cultures and claim both still at the same time. And so I don't want people who are of color, who are black or whatever. I don't want anyone to make you feel you're anything less. You are not anything less. You are everything and then some. So I hope this can give you encouragement. I hope it can bring you, like this pep talk to kind of up in your spirits a bit. Because I know that I've had some friends come to me and they've asked me just real hard questions, like how do they do this? Like where do they go? I spoke to someone today about it, and I hope you're doing okay, Jared. I know we spoke, but I hope you're doing good, man. Because I know you say you're doing better now after we spoke, but it needed to happen. And for people who are mixed, it's okay to cry about these situations. So it's okay to let it out. It's okay to reach out to someone. Reach out to someone. Talk to someone. But please, whether you're white, black, mixed, Asian, definitely are Asians, please help us, because we're always here for y'all too. But just speak up, man. This is not the time to be silent. We have to do better. We have to. Seriously, it's long overdue, and I'm not tired. I am just angry, and I'm fed up, and I'm wide awake, which is why I did so advocate on it lately. So that's just like my 2 cents. But thank you for letting me voice that.
That was honestly, that was just great to listen to. That sense of community, I guess, is what is keeping people, physically together, keeping people from falling apart. And it always comes back to that, the united we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah.
And I think that was super strong. And honestly, I think there's nothing more powerful than that I can say on this podcast. I think
no competition here. No competition.
No, that was like the grand finale at the end of like the fireworks show where they launch off like 1,000 fireworks at once, and you're like, dang, like what? Well, they've been holding back on me. Like here it is. Like that. No, I hope our listeners appreciate that as much as I do, and I think now would probably be a good time to kind of wrap up the podcast. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, I don't know how you haven't, because again, I don't know how we haven't seen that we got featured on Screen Rant. Like come on, how do we? And nobody told us. I'm a little bit offended.
I was a little bit tight when I found out. I was like, wow, maybe.
And we didn't even find out because somebody shared it with us. We found out because someone said, "Hey, go look up your Instagram name and do it under the news section of what was it? Google search?
Google search, yeah.
Like,
Google search.
What the heck? Like, how did we?
I stumbled upon that, and it was just random.
Yeah, you got the number one Miles Morales in their whole list. Like, I kept scrolling down. I was like, ooh, a top 10. I bet you were like 9 or 10. I'm like, 10?
I was thinking really
9?
8 or 9. I was like, hey, there's some really great cosplayers out there. I was really just humbled by it. I was like, top 10,
Yeah.
Top 10.
Right. Top 10. And then number one out of the top 10, I just kept scrolling. I'm like, 5, 4.
Yeah.
And then I got to the end of the list. I was like, oh, you were playing me. Like, it didn't happen. And then I keep scrolling. Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow.
And then I had to scroll past like 3 paragraphs, and then there's an ad for like plastic surgery, and then I get to like number 1. I was like, no way. How did we not see this?
Yeah, man. It's bizarre. And that was one of my favorite shots. I remember I heard that shot. I remember that was like one of our second to last shots that we did.
Yep.
Remember that people were like coming by trying to take pictures?
Yep, trying to get autographs.
That one shot.
Oh man, there is a whole nother podcast behind this shot and behind that whole shoot. Oh man, but I think this was a lot more relevant and a lot more important to talk about. And we can always talk about this shoot, but I think this is something to talk about right now.
Yeah, this is definitely a key point to touch on, and we can definitely go back to touch on that shoot, because I do love that shoot, and I do miss it. Look forward to doing it again and capitalize on it. But yeah, I agree. Love to do it again and talk about it for sure.
For sure, yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. I can't wait to come back to New York, and we one-upped, I think, the entire like cosplay photography like game that was going on. And then
a lot of people were fighting on our style after that shoot. A lot of people were.
So many people got so mad. It was, I don't know why, but
what do they say? The best form of flattery is imitation.
Copy and paste.
Copy and paste. Yeah, a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and if you guys want to see more of that, they're listening to the podcast. Check out Spidey_Verse on Instagram, and I'll let you kind of plug your socials real quick. So,
okay, cool. So yes, on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, my handle is Spidey_Verse, like JT said. And you can reach me out through there and things like that. I'm always open to messages and talking in general. My messages are a little bit backed up just from all this Black Lives Matter movement and being an advocate for Black Lives Matter. So if I'm a little bit late on your messages, please, understand. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get through. And being that I'm an essential worker here in New York, what I do for work, I work overnight, so I'm usually very tired by the end of my shift. So you're welcome to follow me. Like I said, I'm not a typical person. I'm not your typical guy, not your typical cosplayer. I don't care about likes and follows and things like that. I'm just a normal person trying to make a positive impact. So I greatly appreciate JT having me on this podcast, and look forward to hopefully having the opportunity and chance to come on again.
Hell yeah. That's all I got to say about that. All right. So thank you to everybody that listened to the podcast. Thank you to Eli for coming on here and just being real. And I think
Thank you.
it's a conversation that, I mean, it's a conversation I wanted to have, and it's a conversation I needed to have. And I am glad that I have a platform, and I'm grateful and privileged to have a platform that I can share it on. And I appreciate everyone that listens to all of this. And I really appreciate people that also take that next step and have those conversations. I mean, think about if you're like I was. Like, I think this conversation had its own like character arc. If you're who I was at the beginning of the conversation, you can be a whole different person with a whole new mindset at the end of it. And I hope it's changed some people's thoughts, mentalities, ways of thinking for the better. And for the photographers out there, like, know the power of your imagery, know what you can do it for the right reasons. And I mean, you know, you're gonna get awards and stuff for taking great images, but don't do it for that reason. And it's gonna be so much more rewarding than a trophy that rusts away and, you know, gathers dust. So I think that's a good note to end this whole podcast with. Thank you for everybody that listens. And until next weekend, get out and go shoot.